December 1st, 1944. Dawn breaks over Thiaroye camp near Dakar, Senegal. African soldiers who had helped liberate France from Nazi occupation are about to face French bullets for demanding their pay.
Nous avons l'indemnité de combat de 10 francs par jour pendant toute la durée de notre captivité.
During World War II, over 1 million Africans took part in liberating Europe from Nazi Germany. Now, what is actually ironical in this is that the Allies used colonized people in Africa to fight for freedom. But that's not the issue. During Victory Day, US commanders refused that African soldiers should march into France because of the color of their skin. But that's not even the problem. These guys, they handled that one with ease. What was more pivotal here is what actually occurred 4,000 kilometers away from Paris. Now, some months after the Victory Day, when Senegalese soldiers had returned to Senegal, there is a camp which is about 15 kilometers away from Dakar called Thiaroye. On the morning on the 1st of December 1944, Senegalese veterans gathered in the camp demanding their pay.
It's been nearly 80 years since hundreds of black West African soldiers who fought for France's freedom against Nazi Germany during World War II were killed by their fellow white French officers in Senegal in 1944, in what is known as the Thiaroye massacre. This is the story of how France treated its black soldiers and took their lives because they demanded their rights. How it then covered it up and erased it from school curriculums, attempting to deny history and lighten the nation's conscience.
La France a tué mon père et ses camarades.
Je cherche la reconnaissance des faits, tout simplement.
Their last words before they gave up was that Africa will truly be free one day. 80 years later, something extraordinary is happening. Those soldiers' words are coming true.
So slowly the African nations started getting annoyed. All these factors have influenced Chad's latest move. All these former French colonies were dealing with a common problem. Yesterday, it lost its last remaining base in the Sahel region. It has been asked to get out of Chad. And then they kicked out the French troops as well.
What if I told you that the ghosts of Thiaroye are finally getting their revenge? In the past few months, African nations have done something their former colonial masters never thought possible. But before I reveal to you how this soldier's prophecy is unfolding, let me introduce you to someone who has waited for 80 years for this statement. Meet 86-year-old Biram Senghor. Every week he comes to this military cemetery in Thiaroye, bowing before different graves. One of them belongs to his father, Mbap Senghor, but he doesn't know which one. I've been fighting to get answers over 80 years, he says. For decades, France claimed that it was a minute incident and that only 35 people were unalived in Thiaroye. I don't want to use this other word because the algorithm doesn't like it. Then later they said 70. The real number? Historians now believe up to 400 African heroes were gone on that day. But then what France didn't realize was that each bullet they fired that day planted a seed that would take 80 years to grow. Before they were unalived, Thiaroye soldiers made 3 predictions. The first, one day, Africa will make full accountability. The second, future generations will question everything. The third, Africa will regain its sovereignty. How does it feel to watch these words come true in real time? One day, Africa will demand full accountability. These words, spoken in 1944, are echoing through time. In December 2024, Senegal's new president, Bassirou Diomaye Faye, did something unprecedented. Standing on the very ground where those soldiers fell, he demanded France release all its archives about the massacre. But watch this carefully. Here is where it gets interesting. Notice how France's response hasn't changed for 80 years. In 1944, they said only 35 died in a mutiny. In 2024, Macron called it a cry of anger that ended in bloodshed. But President Faye had an ace up his sleeve that those soldiers could only dream of. He didn't just demand the truth, he ordered all French troops to leave Senegal.
There are rumblings from another former French colony, Senegal. Senegal's president has also taken aim at French troops. He says their time is almost up. So it looks like things will get worse for Paris in the days to come.
Then he asked the question that sends shockwaves to Paris. Will France accept a Senegalese military base on their soil? Can you feel the power shift in this simple question? I know how this prophecy has come true. Watch what is happening across French-speaking Africa. In Mali, President Goïta is saying, we reject partnerships based on submission. In Niger, the leaders are saying, our resources belong to our people. In Burkina Faso, President Thiaroye said, the time of taking orders from Paris is over. Are you seeing the pattern? These young leaders are fulfilling their grandfather's prophecies. They are questioning the CFA franc system. I don't want to get into details. That's a story for another day. They're questioning military arrangements, resource contracts, and even France's version of history. And then you have us. Africa is now telling the story. What I'm doing now, I'm telling you the African story, the African way. At first, everything was just handed down to us. The French will write our history and give us that we helped you in the past, we did this in the past. They won't include things like the Thiaroye incident, which Africans are now insisting that they want to see all the details about this. The prophecies on the 1st of December 1944 keep coming true, and there is a pattern across French-speaking Africa. But then, the most shocking fulfillment was yet to come. When Chad, France's most loyal ally for 60 years, suddenly demanded French troops to leave in March 2024, Paris couldn't believe it. Watch this domino effect. 2022, Mali. 2023, Burkina Faso and Niger. In 2024, Senegal, Chad. What actually happens when a prophecy gains unstoppable momentum? These nations aren't just acting individually, they are uniting. Take for example, Niger, Burkina Faso and Chad. They are poised to form a single country and has already merged their militaries. Now this is going beyond the independence period where Africans were divided with lines on the map. Now some argue that removing the French military would destabilize these countries, and they point to terrorist attacks. But what they are not telling you is the pace of economic growth that these countries are having after France left. Look at the numbers. Now, during France's stay in Niger, when France was controlling everything, France bought a kilogram of uranium, which is Niger's main natural resource, at 0.8 euros per kilogram. But when the military coup leaders came, they increased the price of uranium in Niger to 200 euros per kilogram, which is the price on the international market, which is the price that France used to buy uranium from other countries. Like an example is Canada. So at the same time that France was buying from Niger, it also bought from Canada at 200 euros per kilogram. So would you prefer a leader that is democratically elected and controlled by your former colonial power, or a military leader that protects your raw material and gives you the true value of your natural resources and carry out developmental projects that have never been seen before? Look at President Thiaroye in Burkina Faso. What he has done in just 2 years surpasses what some African presidents have done for more than 20 years in power. What will you say of this kind of president? The prophecy of the 1st of December in 1944 by the fallen soldiers of Thiaroye is coming true. So again, I ask the question, what happens when a prophecy gains unstoppable momentum? Remember our friend Biram. Here's what he said watching French troops leave these countries. My father and his comrades knew this day would come. They saw it even as they faced French bullets. The soldiers at Thiaroye didn't just predict the future, they helped create it. Their resistance planted seeds of change that took 80 years to grow. Today's leaders aren't just fulfilling a prophecy, they are writing the next chapter of African history, and we are there to document it. What prophecies are we making today that will shape the next 80 years? What we should remember is that this is not a revenge. It's about restoration of dignity, of our resources, of truth, and of power. And if you think this story is over, just last week, Gabon announced a review of all military arrangements with France. The Republic of Congo is questioning its defense pacts. Côte d'Ivoire's youth are demanding similar changes. Cameroon is debating its French military presence. France still has military bases in 14 African countries. The CFA system is still controlling 14 economies in Africa. Preferential access to natural resources is still accorded to France. France still has cultural and educational influences over French African countries. How many more prophecies will come true in 2025? The soldiers of Thiaroye made one final prediction that is still waiting to be fulfilled. One day, Africa won't just be free from French troops. It will be free from all colonial systems. Watch carefully, because more African nations are questioning old agreements. New generations of leaders are emerging. Economic partnerships are shifting eastward. Pan-African corporations is growing stronger. The soldiers of Thiaroye didn't just predict change. They started a revolution that took 80 years to complete. And if you think their last prophecy about total economic independence sounds impossible, remember, they were right about everything else. So join us next week as we explore which African nation might be next to fulfill these prophecies. Subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you haven't liked this video, I don't know what you're waiting for, because we produce everything you need to know to be free. Now, freedom is not the absence of war, but the capability for you to do whatever you want to do. Freedom involves financial freedom, it involves mental freedom, it involves lots of things. And when we talk about financial freedom, on this channel we produce videos on business, investment, in fact everything that brings you money, small manufacturing and all that. Reports says that the number of millionaires in Africa is going to grow by 47% in the next 10 years, and we want you to be part of it. That's why we produce videos on personal finance and manufacturing, so that you become part of it. We also produce videos about geopolitics, because you can't actually make money without knowing what is going on around you. See you in my next video. I'm Luis, and you are watching Africa Today.